Hey everybody. I hope everyone is recovering from Snowmageddon 2021. It looks like we all survived. I hope. We did really well here at Maison Mac. We just lost power for about an hour. On Tuesday morning when the power had dropped so low, I woke up and I was thinking, why isn't the ceiling fan working? But that was only for a short while, and that was really our only drama. We had our pipe warmers on and our gas stoves going, which we finally turned off today because it got a little warm. And we had already bought groceries for the week, so we had plenty of food. And we did just fine, even though it was kind of an adventure going to Walmart on, what's that, Friday? We went, and there's like nothing left but turkey burgers and, and cauliflower crust pizza. So nobody wanted any of that. So that was kind of an adventure shopping, kind of like it was Night at the Comet. Um, I rotated through all of my long johns, including my military grade Arkansas Air National Guard set of thermals that my dad gave to me back in the early 80s, which was basically my wardrobe throughout the entire 8th grade, kind of like Henry Thomas of E.T. I dressed like him like every day. The free promotion for the book during Valentine's Day went really well, and I want to thank those who took advantage of that. And a big thank you again to Deanna McImfinger for her really great review. I appreciate that a whole lot. 10,000 Lovers is back to its regular price of $2.99 for the Kindle version. Rockin' Heaven Down is still $4.99 for the Kindle version, and those are still available in paperback as well. And as far as what I did here at home while I was off work, technically, I did do some remote work. I checked some email and I graded some things, and I'm kind of a big fan of working at home. It was just like being in the quarantine back again, which kind of worked for us. Didn't really change a whole lot. And I did get some reading done, and we did some TV watching. We watched the entire first season of Bridgerton all the way through. I didn't realize those were books by author Julia Quinn. And the early 1800s isn't exactly my favorite time period. I kind of like a little bit later in the 19th century, but it was really entertaining, even though it was not entirely historically accurate. But watching it, I'd hate to think that my whole entire existence was based on what someone wrote about my family in a gossip column. That's terrifying to think that's how that might have been the norm for the upper middle class. And one of the things I noticed early on, of course, was the music. And in the first episode, they're playing chamber music, which, of course, was still extremely popular. During the early 19th century, you'd have a group of musicians play the current hits of the time by the composers of that era. And I noticed they were playing a rhythm in one particular dance number that would not have been a rhythm pattern you would have heard in authentic early 19th century chamber music. I thought that doesn't sound quite right. The chord progression didn't sound right, and the harmony sounded a little strange. So I looked this up, and what they did was they made chamber music versions of current pop hits, by like Billie Eilish and Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift. So it's like, very clever. I see what you did there, Netflix. But of course I would notice that. I was listening to the music going, something's not right about this. They did use some music from the period. I think they used an opera by Offenbach, which is actually French light opera that was popular among the upper classes. And if anybody actually went to an opera in that time period, it still would have been in Italian. It wouldn't have been in English, though English opera was very popular 200 years before in the 1600s. But that's, of course, one of those things I would of course notice. I also noticed in the very last episode when they're having their waltz, they're not dancing to a waltz. They're dancing to a different version of the first movement of Vivaldi's Spring Concerto. So it's not anywhere close to being a waltz, but they kind of made it look like it was. But only someone like me would notice that. It was entertaining, though. We had a good time. It was fun to watch. It's good. It's good stuff. It's good writing. It's good storytelling, and that was fun. We also watched the 2 episodes of The Sinner, which used to be, I think it was on USA at one time. It's of course Bill Pullman, that I've loved ever since While You Were Sleeping. The first season's like super intense. The second one I liked a little bit better, so we'll watch the third one. It was actually very good. We also watched a movie called The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, which I highly recommend it. It's really, really good. It was a nice kind of feel-good teenage rom-com, Groundhog Day-ish type movie, which was good. I needed something kind of light and fluffy after watching a bunch of post-apocalyptic and some of these kind of redneck cabin in the wood types movies we've been watching lately. So it was really good. I think that was on Amazon. It was on Prime, and that's a good one. It also featured one of the girls that played Castiel's human daughter in Supernatural, and that's one of the things that I noticed. Book-wise, I got some reading done. I finished Demolition Angel by Robert Craze. I thought it was one of his Elvis Cole novels, but it wasn't. I ended up liking it. At the beginning, I didn't know if I would like the character, but it ended up being a pretty decent book. I also finally finished The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice, which I started way back in October because I used to try to read scary books throughout October for Halloween. And this one didn't just jibe with me. I really liked Interview with the Vampire. I loved Feast of All Saints, which was her first novel about the Creole families in New Orleans. And that's a great book. That even had a decent miniseries to go with it, 2 years ago. But I didn't really like Vampire Lestat. I didn't realize he was such a whiner. So I kind of skimmed through most of it just to get to the end to see what it would be like. And then I was kind of done with that. I started reading Jonathan Kellerman's Private Eyes. And I'm a big fan of the Alex Delaware series. And I'm reading a lot of crime novels lately because I'm preparing for the new series I'm working on that I'm kind of excited about. And I'll make an announcement and do a cover reveal for that, probably in mid-March. So I'm looking forward to that and trying to read a bunch of those to kind of get the feel for it. And before I go, I wanted to show off the hats and the gloves that I made for all of my girls and for my niece. And this is the hat, which there's the hole in it for the messy bun or the ponytail, however you want to do it. And then the fingerless gloves. Oh, those are tight. But that's how they look. And they keep your hands really warm. And hello, Sharky. And so I'm really pleased with these. They're easy to make. So there they are. And since I know how to do things like sewing and knitting and crocheting, and all of those kinds of things, I'm beginning to think, especially with this week being like it was, and last year being locked down, that I almost feel like we need to start learning how to prepare for things like no power and no water and things of that nature. And that's kind of scary to think about, but we have to be prepared for those things so that we don't run into problems when those come up again. I was this close to buying one of those prepper magazines at Dollar General about a week ago. Maybe I should start looking into that. I may start learning how to can things too. I had also read a book that had people prepping for this kind of situation. It was Linda Howard and Linda Jones's After Sundown, where CME has knocked out the power grid. So I was kind of in that mindset too, right before this started as well. And we don't like to think about those kind of things because they're scary, but remember that civilization survived for millennia before we even had electricity in the late, 1800s, around in there. So, or early 1800s, whenever we started talking about electric inventions and so on and so forth. So we'd still be able to make it. We just have to nice to know some of those things that are old-fashioned. And even though it was kind of a nightmare for a lot of people, and my heart goes out to those who had to deal without power, without water, without those kinds of things this week. I really kind of enjoyed the snow. I like it when it snows. It's very pretty. I don't want to go out and tromp around in it and mess it up because it looks so cool. And having lived in New Mexico and Colorado where it snowed more often, it kind of reminded us of that. But now it's all over. and it's starting to melt, and it's always kind of sad when that happens. I can even still hear the water dripping down and melting out on my front porch back behind me here. And every so often I would hear this big sound as the icicles and the snow melts off the house and hits the backyard, kind of like asteroids. So every so often today I would hear that. But it's been an interesting week, and I'm sorry I didn't do videos before, but I got caught up in like birthdays and other kind of celebrations. We had Mardi Gras, and we had Groundhog Day, and Candlemas, and Lent, and Ash Wednesday. And so the whole month of February, it's like one big celebration, I guess. So signing off, and I will see you guys later. Bye.